What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 382 of the Established Run NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Drew Dinkmeyer to recap a little bit of Game 4. Had a pretty big surprise with the blowout. A whole lot of Tim Hardaway Jr. in the fourth, which is tilting for me because I did not play him, and a lot of the Fish did. Sorry, Fish. Dink, you're doing better than me. You had a nice, fun weekend. How's it going?
Yeah, it was nice to be back up for my 20-year reunion. I missed Game 4, but did rewatch it possession by possession. Thank you, League Pass, this morning twice. Was not anticipating how early I got to cut off the possession by possession because with about 2 minutes in the third quarter, I saw a bunch of guys I hadn't seen in the series on the court for Boston. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't need to watch this anymore. So yeah, did not get to watch the game live. Did get to watch Game 4 on a recap basis and have a lot of thoughts. I'm excited that we're just talking about more basketball. I was concerned on our last podcast that might have been our last podcast of the 2023-2024 season. We get a Game 5 tonight. We'll see if Boston can close it out at home. But I'm excited to talk about hoops.
Yeah, we did the kind of so long farewell stuff on Friday. We thought it was kind of a wrap, but yeah, we get an extra game tonight. So the defense was kind of the headline from the Mavericks. They had really good rim defense. We saw throughout the year, or the postseason, I should say, their rim defense had gotten worse in every single round, getting up to almost 1.5 points per possession at the rim in the first three games of the series. And then all of a sudden they kicked it up. They won everything, the Mavs. They won the rim points. They won transition. They did lose catch and shoot possessions by a little bit, but only by 27 to 23 or 23. So, yeah, what do you think? Do you think that this is sustainable? Do you think this was a, hey, desperate team kind of comes out? Is it basically, is Dallas like live-ish, or we can't really go that far?
Yeah, it's hard to say. So much of that, it's hard to manufacture urgency that you're playing with. And they obviously played with a bunch of urgency. I thought Boston did not play with a lot of urgency from my rewatching of it. Essentially, the big difference in this game was it was flipped in terms of who was able to keep the ball in front of them. The first three games of the series, it was Boston pretty much had the ball in front of them on one side of the floor, and then on the other side of the floor, Dallas couldn't keep the ball in front of them at all. In this game, it was pretty flipped. And that happened, I would say, mostly like midway through or a quarter, like maybe 3.5 minutes through the first quarter. It seemed to stem a tide where Dallas was really committed to getting downhill and just continued to do so. Boston got into some of those, lazier habits that we've talked about in the past, kind of settling for jumpers. I thought they were taking a lot of kind of contested threes early in the game that just didn't look like they were playing with the same level of aggressiveness. Part of that was that Dallas was staying in front, though. Luka did a much better job defensively in this game. And then I thought the two guys that played really, really well defensively that we had not seen play super effectively before were Josh Green and Maxi Kleber. I thought they were really, really good at staying in front, stopping the ball from getting to the rim, contesting when they did get kind of pulled up on in the mid-range. And I thought that was kind of a tide turner for them. Luka being able to stay in front, Boston not able to attack and hunt Luka quite as much. And then both Maxi Kleber and Josh Green did a great job at kind of stopping the ball. Dante Exum as well. They just got a lot more length out there and stopped the drives. And I thought Boston sort of, settled a little bit. Like once the initial drives were cut off, they kind of just got into passing the ball around the perimeter and trying to find a step back or a quick release three. And so I thought that's a more sustainable recipe for success for Dallas. I don't know if they can sustainably stay in front of Boston. To me, it looked like Boston kind of stopped driving as aggressively. In the first quarter, actually, Tatum had, I think, 3 drives in the first quarter where he got to the bucket each time, scored buckets, and that was kind of it. The rest of the team was kind of settling for kind of fadeaway and step back threes.
Yeah, points off drives kind of drives that point home, no pun intended. 16 for Kyrie points on drives, 16 for Luka, 8 for Tatum, 4 for Exum, 4 for Pritchard, 3 for Tillman on a little one, I guess.
This is a great
and then Jaylen Brown only had 2 points on drives. He still passed a little bit. He shot terribly on drives, 1 of 5. I've been talking about it. That's been like his big thing. Like he's been so good on drives. So clearly that was their issue. As you mentioned, the second, third attacks weren't really there as much. I thought that was a problem for sure. So, but yeah, we've been waiting for Dallas to score 100 points. They shattered that, basically getting there almost in 3 quarters there. So, but yeah, I guess the question is, I thought for me, the most surprising thing to me was PG Washington getting cut down. What the hell? I did not see that coming at all. Can that happen again? Like, obviously, you mentioned Maxi Kleber was the big thorn in the side. Is like PJ in trouble? That was when I was writing matchups. I had a
Yeah.
tough time trying to figuring that out. I did not see that coming at all. Did you? And where do you think they go from here with PJ?
Well, we saw starting in game three, Derek Jones Jr. got cut down in a really kind of unexpected way in game three. And
Hmm.
we saw a lot of experimenting from Jason Kidd in game three, also with 11 players playing in the first half. And I think it's a sign of he's just basically going to ride hot hands at this point, outside of Luca and Kyrie, right? Luca and
Hmm.
Kyrie, he fully trusts. I think Lively's at the point where he pretty much fully trusts Lively.
Hmm.
But obviously, if Gafford's playing really well, which he did at the beginning of the third quarter, was great. I think he had all 7 points maybe in the very beginning of that third quarter to help put the game away. But I think it's going to be mostly hot hand outside of Luka Kyrie, and that's what the box score looks like. If you weren't even watching this game, those guys both got into the 30 minutes. The only other guys to get into the 20 minutes were Lively and Kleber, and only two other players got above 15 minutes in this game, which is crazy to say, but it was Josh Green and Derek Jones Jr. there. So they were, part of that is influenced obviously by having basically 15 minutes of blowout at the end of the game. But a big part of it was simply I thought they were just kind of playing and letting hot units go. So I thought we saw like extended runs from Josh Green and Maxi Kleber because they were so effective in this game. I thought Maxi's defense was way better in this game, but I also thought offensively
Hmm.
he was more decisive. And Josh Green was very decisive on attacking closeouts in this game. He had a couple nice moves to the rim. He had a nice dump off to Lively down low. He had a nice move at the rim that I think Jalen Brown or Drew Holiday blocked as well. But he was decisive. They weren't kind of pausing and then resetting the offense. And I thought Boston more so in this game played less decisively. And so yeah, PJ potentially a small risk. I think Derek Jones Jr. a bigger risk. I think it's more likely that Josh Green can play well and effectively than Maxi. But Maxi looked more offensively confident than he has since he's returned
Hmm.
from the shoulder injury.
Yeah, maybe it was health. Maybe it was just one good game. I don't know. But yeah, man, Dante Exum. So Dink, that was my stand, man. I did it again. I was like Dante Exum. I jammed him. I had like half my lineups with Dante Exum. I had like I think I had 3 lineups in the top 100, at halftime, and it was going so well. I thought I was gonna pull a dink. I thought I was gonna do well, but, no, Dante Garbage Time really cut me. He's clearly playing. How many minutes for Dante Exum, are we gonna be talking about on the DFS show later?
I think he should essentially be their seventh man, right? Lively
Mhm,
their sixth man, and I think Dante Exum should be basically their seventh man. His length on the perimeter, his ability to bring the ball up and kind of save some reps for Luca and Kyrie there, and I thought he was both in game three and in game four, but especially in
mhm,
game four, very aggressive attacking off the dribble, which is not
mhm,
something that we've seen him do. But he was able to break down the defense and get into the lane a couple times, set up kind of corner three looks, or get himself to the rim. I think there was a finger roll that he ended up finishing off, one that he
mhm.
just missed that rimmed off at Lively on offensive rebound as well. But I thought he was just much more decisive and aggressive in terms of attacking. And if he can offer more than just spot up shooting, which is what he was doing in the middle of the season when he was playing so effectively. He was offering the shooting and he was offering the secondary ball handling. That's a legit two-way, playoff finals level player, which we've been looking for options that the Mavs have that can fill that role. And he looked to fill that in game four. So yeah, I would expect, I don't know, teens to
Mhm,
low to mid 20s if things go really really
mhm,
well for him. But I think he's got to play. I think his size. I think one of the things you mentioned, Jalen Brown struggling finishing at the rim, didn't get to the rim with as much ease. I think in part because there were bigger defenders on him kind of
mhm.
throughout. It wasn't as much that like Kyrie would get stuck there and he could just kind of elevate over. It wasn't Luca that he was just blowing by. Again, Luca did a better job this game staying in front. I thought he had to deal with better defenders and more size and length there, and that's in part because of the job that Exum and Maxi Kleber and Josh Green all did.
Yeah, Maxi Kleber picked him up a bunch. I thought he played pretty well. So, yeah, with you there. And then, yeah, you mentioned the handling. He brought the ball up a bunch, took some
Yep.
pressure off Luca. We talked a lot about the quote that Jason Kidd was going to try to take some workload off of Luca. And I think Dante really helped them there. But yeah, so expecting him to play a bunch. So, yeah, I think we kind of know. We didn't talk about Derek Lively yet. Man, Sam and I were like, I can't believe he's plus 350 on double double, and we didn't bet it. Shame on me, and shame on me for not touting it. But he gets a double double, 3 pointer, first 3 pointer of his career. That was a shocker, man. I don't. That was honestly like one of the most shocking shots I've seen all playoffs. Only his third attempted three, it just jumpers. Only his fourth jumper since January. So that came out of nowhere. He's been so good, and like we said last week, man, they hit the nuts, man. Just
Hmm.
tanking for this pick and hitting in the absolute best way in a position they absolutely need. Derek Levy's kind of here to stay, and yeah, for fantasy next year, man, he's going to be, man. I don't know how high he's going to go, but he's a guy we're going to be doing a lot of talking about for sure. Yeah. So how do you feel about him now, and then kind of going forward?
Yeah, seeing the 3-pointer was fun because it was in rhythm.
Hmm.
He took the shot quickly. Like sometimes you see these guys like they kind of hesitate. Like, am I supposed to take the shot? He took it
Hmm.
in rhythm, knocked it down, and then the look of like befuddled defeat on Jason Tatum's face when Lively knocks down the three. Like, come on, like we're not expecting that. That's not in the scouting
Hmm.
report. I love seeing that stuff because it shows the level of precision that which these teams are planning. Right? They like
Hmm.
know where the ball is supposed to go in these situations, and the ball is not supposed to go up from there from Jason Tatum. So it
Yeah.
was really, really funny to watch kind of the reaction there. But Lively was great. This is where I thought, Lively brought a ton of energy. He was awesome. The big thing for me was I did not see Boston competing on the boards in the way that they had in the first three games, right? Like a lot of times you'd see three Boston guys competing for a board with Lively or Gafford, two kind of boxing out, one trying to go up and attack, often Jason Tatum going up and attacking and getting the ball. I saw a lot of standing around while Lively
Hmm.
was the one going after boards in this one. And that's where the level of urgency, it's really hard to like manufacture and figure out how you're going to play with it. But that's where Boston looked lackadaisical to me, was on the rebounding side. And obviously, things get out of hand when you don't shoot well as well. This game ended up being 52-31 in terms of rebounds total, but Dallas also 13-4 in terms of offensive rebounds. And I thought that was a huge difference maker in this game, was that the energy that Boston had brought competing on the boards throughout the series was just not there in this one. It allowed a lot of extra possessions. It allowed Dallas to kind of steal momentum back in a number of spots, that and great shot making. There were a couple of different sequences where it looked like Boston in the first quarter, like Derek White had that kind of Hail Mary three that went in. Right after that, Kyrie comes back and knocks down a three. Right after that, they get a PJ Washington three kind of in transition. And they were able to stem the tides, but I thought a lot of the gap in this game in terms of effort and commitment was on the rebounding side, on Dallas' side of the floor. So many
Hmm.
offensive rebounds, so many second opportunities, and that's where Derek Lively just really, really thrives. I think he had 7 offensive rebounds in this game, which is just an
Yep.
insane mark. So he had 3 more offensive rebounds than the Celtics did as a team. So
Hmm.
yeah, his effort, his energy continues to be a big spark. We'll see if that can continue in Boston. Right, the first 2 games of the series, Derek Lively was not impactful on the road
Hmm.
in Boston, and obviously the elephant in the room on all of this is we're talking about points in the paint. We're talking about offensive
Yep.
rebounding. We're talking about finishing at the rim. We're talking about, in some ways, on defense, which maybe not specifically highlighted, but there's better spacing for Dallas, all because Kristaps Porzingis is not out there. And when
Hmm.
Kristaps Porzingis is not out there, Boston is a little bit more vulnerable. Are they vulnerable enough to lose 4 in a row? I'm doubtful on that one, but they are a lot more vulnerable, and I think that's a testament to what we've seen in the playoffs when we've been questioning Boston a lot. Is without Kristaps Porzingis, they're not the level of team that they were all regular season with Kristaps
Hmm.
Porzingis.
Yeah, they won a lot of games without Kristaps, but to your point, Derek Lively had 10 paint touches. Every single rotation player combined had 9. So it was just, he kind of had free reign. Certainly a bit of just running bad in games 1 and 2, and then obviously Kristaps, and then kind of running good. But the dude could play. Again, like I said, he's going to be a guy we're going to be talking about a lot this summer and going forward overall. So we mostly covered the Mavs guys. I don't have too much to say. Al Horford, non-factor offensively. I mentioned like no interior offense from these guys. Drew kind of had a subpar game really on both ends. Derek White didn't really get his shot going. Did have the volume. The catch and shoot stuff was there again. And I mentioned Jaylen Brown struggles. But yeah, it sounds like Chris Stepps is going to miss again. Maybe we get the commentary that he'll be active and then barely play or whatever. So yeah, do you think Tillman is kind of safe? Obviously, had a pretty good game in Game 3, but how do you see House has been awesome, man. So how do you see kind of like the rotation rounding out? Do they go to Cornette here, or do you think they just kind of run Tillman back?
Yeah, I think they're probably sticking with Tillman, but I think it might be a little bit of a quicker hook in the attempt to play Horford just a bunch in this one. We'll see on that.
Mhm,
The challenge with both Tillman and Horford compared to Kristaps Porzingis is just defensively, you can kind of hide Luca there. You can hide
mhm,
whoever you want to hide there and force them into bringing that into the action and seeing if they want to try to make these guys roll men, which Horford and Tillman are not great roll men. They're more kind of pop guys or just screen setters that
mhm,
kind of close you out. And so that's where Boston's offense was getting a little bit stagnant, is that they weren't finding kind of multiple levels to be able to continue the attack. And once the ball kind of hit Tillman's hands, the defense could just immediately help off of that. So basically, like they break down off the dribble, they get the ball moving on the perimeter. You don't have to run out and close out to Tillman. You're running out and closing out to the one pass away. And so I thought the contests were a lot
mhm,
better for Dallas because of that. And so with Horford, you have to respect him a little bit more at the 3 point line. So I do think he's safer than Cornette in terms of playing in this game, but I think the hook could be pretty quick. And I thought Tillman's largely
mhm,
played well on the defensive side, but offensively,
mhm.
there are some limitations out there that kind of show their hand with how Dallas is able to cover things.
Yeah, I thought Pritchard's minutes have gone pretty good. House has been really, really strong. So that was kind of my initial lean. Was like, okay, they just run it tight. Hey, they obviously played light minutes in game four, off for 2 days. Maybe they really ramp up guys today, and you see like some 44s, 43s, 45 out of Tatum, stuff like that, to kind of trim it down. Tatum, I thought he was like okay. Obviously, the minus 33 jumps out. Drew Holiday's minus 38 was rough. And I don't really have much to say. Like I said, the roles were kind of the same. Drew didn't get as much touches as he did in game three. The touches kind of ticked up in game three for him. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to add. Do you have anything you want to say on? We talked about JB or anything like Drew Howard just wasn't impactful in this one.
Yeah, I thought basically the whole team on Boston side played passive. So
Hmm.
usually I'm kind of more critical on Jason Tatum on this, but I thought it was everybody on the team. Just I
Hmm.
didn't think there were a lot of attempts at secondary drives, which is up to Drew mostly. He's usually the guy who's creating that, or Jaylen Brown. I thought there were a lot of there were at times like initial drives, but they turned into either contested shots or swinging the ball around the perimeter, and then decent contests and closeouts from Dallas. So I thought there just needed to be more attacking offensively on the whole, and
Hmm.
the guys who've been doing that effectively in the series have been Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum. So those, that's been more their game than Derek White. Derek White and Al Horford have been more the pure catch and shoot guys. So I guess it falls on them a little bit more. But in general, I thought they were just a little bit quick on the trigger, and I thought they felt like a little bit offbeat just the whole game. There were a couple
Hmm.
times where Drew had drives where he broke down the defense and he could have just finished at the rim, and he kicked it back out into like contested situations, and they got the ball moving, and they got a tough three at the end instead of the layup at the line. So it just felt like they were just a little bit out of rhythm. I agree with you that I think we'll see probably a more condensed rotation to try to close this out in five. I do like if they lose this game, things get a little bit more interesting in a way that I don't think they want to deal with. So I think we're going to
Hmm.
see kind of condensed rotation from the Boston side. I think the Dallas side, we're probably going to see them kind of experiment and try to find hot hands out there. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder to project the Dallas side than the Boston side of things.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think largely for Boston, this is a throwaway game. And you're like, hey, we didn't come out with the energy we need to. We were up 3-0. They came out facing elimination, playing with extreme urgency. And it was a big disparity in the effort between these two teams. And I think Joe Mazzulla just says like, hey, you can't afford to come out with that level of intensity this one. We need to close it out and end this here.
Hmm. And then with Dallas, does Tim Hardaway Jr. play? Like, did he play well enough? He hit his first five threes. I think I saw a stat where five threes in a quarter is only done by like four or five people ever in a finals game. Did he play himself in? I don't think so. I think the Exum getting pulled out makes like he's secure. Maxi's kind of back now. Lively, that's eight already. So, do you think Tim Hardaway Jr. gets rotation minutes?
I mean, my plea with Jason Kidd has been the same with Tim Hardaway Jr. forever, which is just
Mhm,
give him 3 to 5 minutes, let him pull the trigger on two or three threes, and just
mhm,
see if he's got it going. Because if he's got it going, it's worth it to have him out there,
mhm,
even if he's not helping on the defensive end very much. But if he doesn't, you just pull that hook real quick. I don't think Kidd hasn't approached it that way at all, so
mhm,
my guess is no. My guess is it's a
Mhm.
break glass in case of emergency. If things are not looking good with Maxi Kleber, if things are not looking good with Josh Green, then yeah, maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. gets a look. But I don't think the fourth quarter in a blowout game is enough. I mean, I think it was clear the intention of who they wanted to play, and they played very, very well in those minutes. And I think they'd like to go in with that same intention in Game Five. But I think he's there in case of emergency.
Yeah, if Exum looks kind of off, or maybe Maxi doesn't have it going, looks like he did in game three or two or one, or game, when he closed out the game five against the Wolves. So, yeah, I don't really have, we can make this a quick one today. I don't really have too much to say. Do you have a prediction, or do you think we talked about, the last pod being the last one? Is this the last pod we're going to do today?
Certainly not the last pod, maybe the last pod of the
No,
season,
yeah.
but we'll have plenty of content. But no, I think in terms of predictions, I think the biggest question mark is: do you believe in Dallas's ability to stay in front of the ball? Do you believe that that is something that is
Yeah.
going to continue to carry over? Do you believe that Boston will lose some of that relentlessness that they've had in the first three games in terms of attacking the rim? Because that's the way we've described them for the first three games.
Hmm.
It was just relentless attacking of the rim. That was not the case in game four.
Hmm.
I'm skeptical, right? I'm skeptical. Like the first three games was a lot of data of Boston being
Hmm.
able to get to the rim kind of at ease. But if that tide does turn, Dallas is live. If that tide
Hmm.
does turn, if Dallas can stay in front of the ball, if Dallas can stop Boston from attacking the rim and get them into settling, you open up 3-point variance as a path. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Boston's going to take care of things here at home in Game Five. But ultimately, like that's the path. What the way they won in Game Four was sustainable.
Hmm.
I like that recipe. If they get that shot quality, we talked about the shot quality differences, right? Like
Yep.
that shot quality diet was good. Dallas can win on that shot quality diet. Can they repeatedly get that shot quality diet? I don't know. I'm more
Hmm.
skeptical of that. But if they do, they can definitely win because that was a recipe for success. Whereas we talked about the first three games, even though the games 2 and 3 kind of came down to the wire, those aren't recipes for success in terms of the gap of shot quality between the two teams. Game four was much, much better for Dallas on that front.
Yep. 100% agree. Yeah, like I mentioned, 27 to 23 catch and shoot difference. You could live with that all day. When game three, their points off catch and shoot was 101 to 30. Just outrageous. So, yeah, if you could kind of play, single digits difference, then you're in pretty good shape there. But yeah, definitely excited for tonight. We'll see. I kind of think Boston closes them out. We'll see. Again, couldn't really have been more wrong. What like third or fourth largest NBA Finals blowout. So yeah, definitely pumped for the game. Pumped to play DFS again. As I said, God, I thought I had it going. I thought I had a good night to close out here. But yeah, pumped to talk injury show and then DFS show with you. Anything else you want to mention to get us out of here?
As always, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast, please consider leaving a rating and review. That helps us circulate the podcast, also helps us get feedback on how to continue to improve this podcast. And if you're checking out on our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe there. We appreciate all of you who have taken the time to subscribe to our YouTube channel and get us over our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. We sincerely appreciate it. We'll continue to post content on that YouTube channel, Stops Run NBA on YouTube throughout the offseason. So appreciate you all and look forward to a fun game five. Maybe we'll be talking about game six. Maybe we'll be recapping the champs next time around.
Should be fun. Excited to go through the day. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.